You're watching Money Talk Viewpoint, and I'm Chantel Leeson. Successful businesses have one thing in common, and it's the right clients, prospects, and customers. And before I get started, now I want to introduce my entire group. AK Pandy's in the background. You won't see him, but he's going to tell us how much time we have left, because when you're having fun, you run out of time. Stuart Cruz is my co-host, and my guest speaker is Jason Mine. He'll be the last one I'll introduce. But before we get started, I want to thank everyone for being here today, particularly those of you who are with schools, high schools, and colleges who are looking to move your children forward into a very successful life and very successful career. Thank you for being with us. Now let me introduce my co-host, Stuart Cruz. Stuart is a chartered financial analyst. He's a quant investment advisor, a TEDx speaker, a published author. Stuart is also a venture capitalist and is a CFO for Virtual Family Office. Stuart, thanks for being part of our team.
Thanks for having me, Chantel. Sounds like that introduction is more than I deserve, but I appreciate it.
No, I think you're a great guy. You know, I want you to tell the audience the difference in a family office and a virtual family office.
Yeah, great question. So a family office, I'm sure you're aware, the concept came, I believe it started with the Rockefellers. And what it is when somebody has, or a family has so much money, they can afford to hire a team of financial professionals like myself, CPAs, estate planning lawyers, tax mitigation specialists that are on their staff that can help basically reach their financial potential, right? But most of the people don't have that kind of wealth, because you can imagine with that staff on board, and somebody, if you're looking for the best of the best, you could really have a multiple million dollar cost per year. So in order for you to justify that cost, you should probably have in the neighborhood of 300, 500 million or more to actually have a real family office that is working as a team on your assets to make your assets work as efficiently as possible. Now, I don't know about your clients, but I don't have a stable full of those kind of clients. They don't have their own family office. My clients are millionaires, but they usually don't feel like they have enough money to, just retire and hire somebody full time. But most of my clients need some of those services some of the time. So that's where a virtual family office steps in. You can be proactive and give them the family office services that they would enjoy if they had their own family office, but certainly not at that same cost, and pretty much at their desire and an as needed basis.
Okay. I want to ask one other question. How does that differ from just a financial advisor in private wealth management? Can you share that with the audience? Because a lot of people go to a private wealth management practice. You and I both work for major firms, and that's not the same as a family office advisor. Can you share the difference in that? Sure.
And the distinction is really important. And I'll even tell you, for the first, call it 15 years of my career as a wealth advisor, of course, you want to service the clients in the best way possible. And I worked in those big bank environments before. But the compliance is such that they need to make sure that the firm isn't doing anything wrong. So a wealth advisor generally works in their own silo and in their own eco center to the extent that their company will allow them. So I know whenever I had a client and they were asking me advice on, let's say, insurance, which I don't sell. I'm actually licensed to sell insurance, but don't sell insurance. But I know I would get protective of my client's assets and start to talk, maybe not in the best proactive way for my clients, but how can I protect my own relationship with my client? And then when he's bringing the CPA in to discuss ideas, well, I wasn't allowed to have conversations with the CPA. I could, of course, give them tax documents, but in those large environments, you're just not allowed to have these deep dialogues and discussions about what's the best way to optimize my client's financial future, because a lot of times it doesn't involve the company you're working with, whether you're at a big bank or something. So with a virtual family office, that you flip the script. You go out of your way to be proactive and form a team. So you work proactively with the CPA and the client's other experts, whether they have estate planners that they have on board. And let's just say, by way of example, they have a bunch of real estate. When I was at a big bank, I couldn't recommend tax mitigation strategies or cost segregation or anything along those lines. But what we do now in a virtual family office is we proactively look for opportunities. We bring the CPA into the conversation. We bring in an expert as needed. So let's say it's cost segregation. You bring him in, you make as a team working together. And you can imagine, pick a sport. You work better as a team, not as individuals, right? Individuals trying to be superstars. You work better as a team. So the team comes together, presents the idea to the client. The client decides whether it's appropriate for them or not. And then you proceed with that solution as a group and as a team.
Okay, I think it's important for the audience to know, because some of them have the capability to have a private virtual family office, but aren't aware. And with that being said, I'm going to move to my special guest for the afternoon for today. And this is Jason Ma. Jason's the CEO and chief mentor for his award-winning family business 3EQ. It is a premier education business and family office advisory service. Jason has successfully counseled and coached with well-being one-on-one hundreds of students who've been accepted into the Ivy League schools as well as the elite universities in the US and in the UK. Stuart?
Jason is the author of the critically acclaimed book, Young Leaders 3.0, Stories, Insights, and Tips for Next Generation Achievers. He's formerly the Forbes contributor on mentoring young leaders for elite college admissions, higher education, leadership, and entrepreneurial success. Jason is a member of the B20, the official G20 Dialogue Forum with global business community, serving on the Future of Work and Education Task Force.
Jason is also recognized as the chief mentor and next generation leader by the CEO magazine, Family Office magazine, Impact Wealth magazine, numerous family circle summits, and CEO circles. And Jason is a sought after keynote speaker. I'm honored to have you, Jason. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, it's such a pleasure and honor to be here as well. I think Chantel, you meant some family office circle. So absolutely. I'm happy to contribute and inspire in this talk. So fire away.
You know, I want to start by asking, can you share with the audience what you do? I'm going to put you on speaker view, so it'll just be you on scene here. Yeah, where we go.
Okay, very briefly, I run two companies. I'm co-building another very exciting tech company. And then the other company is really my family office that you folks have kindly introduced, 3EQ. So you have to spell it out, THREEEQ.com. And I'm very passionate with my team. My daughters are involved. They're 25, 22. One's at Google. She began her 5th year as a software engineer. And I see a potential CTO in her as chief tech officer in the long term. And my younger daughter graduated Wharton, Penn Wharton this year. She started work at Salesforce Slack. Lo and behold, she's taking a path less traveled as a Wharton, business leadership kid. She's also a software engineer. She said, "Dad, I want to get deeper into tech." So, build empathy, compassion, understand the engineers. And then she accepted the offer way back in the beginning of her senior year. So she's like cruising. And when it comes to, it's very interesting. I could talk about how competitive the job market is too for employers and employees and all that. And so I'm very blessed, and I see a potential powerful CEO in my tiny little daughter. She's less than 5 foot, so she looks like still in high school. I joke with her all the time, but she's a dynamo when it comes to communication and leadership. So 3EQ, just like what you mentioned, I'm very big on grooming and mentoring the next gen. And it's such gratitude to be recognized as a chief mentor of next gen leaders. And I got inducted into the League of Gentlemen in the Fashion for Development Sustainable Goals Banquet in the presence of UN heads of delegation, their first ladies, ambassadors, and a bunch of VIPs from entertainment and fashion for impact as a chief mentor of next gen leaders. So I think this talk, we're going to go deep into the segment that is so fun and important, right? High school kids and college transfer kids. So fire away with the questions.
Well, Stuart, I'm going to let you start with the first question. Do you mind?
Yeah. So I got to tell you, Jason, I've got 4 kids, 11, 9, and 7. So I know
I'm
this.
planning.
Yeah, I know the stress and anxiety started when they were in kindergarten. They had to enter the right kindergarten so they could get to the right grade school, so they get to the right high school and so on. And now my kids are in sixth grade and the conversations are like, what high schools are they in? What do they need to do? And it seems to be changing a lot. And so what is going on in the space today in college prep?
Okay, so you talked about middle school kids and then high school kids. Let's think about middle school kids as pre-high school. How's that? To make it simple. And one of the Forbes articles I wrote is called "Why to Prepare for College in Sixth Grade." Now, when I wrote that, I intentionally did not write about academics, right? Performance. That's obvious, isn't it? I intentionally write about struggles, habits, choices, and through some anecdotes, including my daughters. My daughters back then were 14 and 11. And one daughter, she was struggling with activities. I have to guide them. That's my older daughter. And she ended up going to Georgetown. She got admitted to a couple of Ivy League schools and Berkeley, USC, a bunch of top private schools, and et cetera. But Georgetown is not as famous as Ivy's. She got admitted to a couple of Ivy League schools, but she felt right. And the rest is history, right? Georgetown was not even known for a good CS program, but lo and behold, she got into Google. That's a miracle by itself. That's a separate story. My younger daughter, back then, my older daughter's 25 now. Back then, she was 14. My younger daughter, she was 11 back then. She's now 22. She was struggling with, I'm sure a lot of parents can empathize, device addiction, social media addiction, lots of time wasted, slack time with mobile devices, with the iPad. And my wife and I back then had a deal that, she said, I said, honey, all right, you're a great nurturer. I'm the mentor, right? We're both super loving parents, right? So it's teamwork. And what I do, I'm going to take over and start coaching, mentoring Lydia, my younger daughter, at age 13. But at age 11, I was like, oh my God, if I don't jump in right now, she's going to go off the deep end and she's going to become a vegetable, right? And so I have to jump in and start taking over and transforming her, disrupting the pattern and start reshaping her habits. So I'm not going to go that deep into it. We don't have much time. But I talked about transformation on how I converted bad habits to be a neutral to be good, and then good to be a super strength, right? So today, she's got this amazing ability to focus like you wouldn't believe. It's kind of like texting, do all sorts of crazy things, Gen Z, right? And then boom, all of a sudden go back to AP Chem and focus and get a 5, right? And kind of became the graduate summa cum laude. So it is all coachable and trainable and teachable and learnable for our kids. In summary, I think for middle school kids, one tip for parents and for fellow education leaders is really to shape their habits, right? Reading, really shape them, encourage them. As parents, your kids, once they go to middle school, your kids on average, gonna start not listening to parents so much. You know that, right? Just Mother Nature at work. It doesn't matter if you are a super kind, loving parent, you got a PhD in psychology, in English from Harvard, you're a billionaire. It does not matter. Your kids are not going to fully listen to you. Just Mother Nature at work, number one. Number two is that within the family, the parents and students sometimes are often too close. Sometimes it's kind of like selective advice, but you want to pick the best advisors to do that, right? So I see that from a third party trusted mentor standpoint. Now, with my family, I struggle as well. Do you think my kids fully listen to me? No, right? It's just Mother Nature. But because of what I do over the past now is like 20,000 hours, 20,000, 25,000 hours of success coaching, mentoring, applied research, writing, speaking. I tend to be maybe a little bit more skillful than 99.999% of parents. So net profit is that my kids still listen to me. And I was able to shape them, hone them, and guide them through the academics, non-academic process, kind of your schoolwork, your your academic performance, your school year activity, summer activity, of course, the kind of complex elite college planning, and then later on application, admissions process, and all the interconnected ingredients within the college process. It's kind of like making a movie, right? A movie is about character. It's about story and then storytelling, and then about the quality of a production. I think of it that way. I help shape incredible characters, and I've done it for a couple hundred times. and also help them build a great story that's a bit more distinctive, because each person is different than the other kid, right? And then the production process is pretty much your application process, right? Which is very complex. Right now it's very hyper competitive. So I guess we should move on to the next question.
Well, let's continue with it down that vein. So you touched on a lot of topics there. Again, my two kids, I've got they're 11-year-old twins, same genetic material. One is extremely thriving in university or in school, and the other one is severely dyslexic. And so they are faced with very different challenges. So
right.
you said, one of your daughters went to Georgetown. So how do you go about, and what are the ways that a parent can drive or guide their kids so that they can